Real estate developers build the most unusual and creative houses you've ever seen. Join me as we take a look at the top 15 coolest houses in the world. Number 15. The Dancing House, Prague, Czech Republic. If you walk along the riverside of Prague, the capital city of the Czech Republic, the chances are you'll come across this unusual structure that's officially known as the Nationale Nederlanden building, but it's more commonly referred to as the Dancing House, or Fred and Ginger. It was designed by architect Vlado Miluníčin in 1992 and had been finished by 1996, immediately becoming one of the most recognizable houses in the city, which is known for its Baroque, Gothic, and Art Nouveau architecture. Described as an example of deconstructivist architecture, the dancing shape of the building is achieved by the use of 99 concrete panels, each of which is a different shape and style. There are two main parts to it, the first which is a glass tower that's supported by curved pillars, and the second that's made up of curved moldings and irregularly placed windows. The designer took Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers as the inspiration for the building, and included a tower made of rock to represent Fred, and one made of glass that represents Ginger. Surprisingly, it's only 9 floors high, but the way it's been built makes it appear like there's many more levels, and the layout within is equally as strange. Originally, most of the space was intended to be for private accommodation, and while parts have now been developed into a hotel, art gallery, and restaurant, it remains one of the most prestigious addresses in Prague. Number 14. Hang Na. The extremely strange but amazingly designed Hang Na Guest House, which is also known as the Crazy House and the Fairy Tale House, is a structure that stands out amongst the otherwise modest buildings in the city of Đà Lạt in Vietnam. From the outside, it looks like a weathering tree, but when you look closer, you'll see sculpted elements of animals, spider webs, mushrooms, and caves. Described as expressionist architecture, the designer of the building took clear inspiration from Catalan architect Antonio Gaudí and is often said to feel like you've walked into a creation at Disneyland. It was originally completed in 1990 as a personal project by the architect, Dang Viet Na. But to help cover the costs involved, it since has become a guest house that welcomes visitors from around the world. The 10 rooms inside are each themed in their own way, such as the Tiger Room, the Eagle Room, and the Kangaroo Room. All furniture is meticulously handcrafted, and with the ways the corridors and staircases are built to feel like tunnels and caves, every turn you take is like a new adventure into the unknown. Number 13. High Desert House, Joshua Tree National Park, California, United States. The Joshua Tree National Park in California feels like an alien landscape at the best of times, and it seems fitting that it was the location chosen for a truly unique home designed by renowned architect Kendrick Bangs Kellogg. After receiving a handwritten note from a couple who wanted a striking design for a 10-acre plot of land they had just purchased, the result was the organic yet modern High Desert House. It took 5 years to complete the main structure of the building, with columns embedded every 7 feet into the bedrock, poured concrete to give the curved foundations, and 26 freestanding concrete columns that looks like the skeleton of an ancient creature. Famed artist John Vergen was then brought on board to design the interior, a project that took 14 years to finish, with bespoke furniture and decorations throughout. Finally completed in 2014, the High Desert House was described by the New York Times as being the most unsung great residence in America by one of architecture's least known major talents. Yeah, and it's undoubtedly one of the coolest homes to see, let alone live in not just the US, but the whole world. Number 12. The Seashell House, Mexico City, Mexico. Built in 2006 and designed by Mexican architect Javier Senacian, the Nautilus House, which is often referred to as simply the Seashell House, is one of the coolest and most spectacular homes you'll find in Mexico City. It was created for a young family with 2 children who had become bored with their conventional house and wanted instead to live in one that was more connected with nature. With clear influences from Gaudí and Frank Lloyd Wright, the Nautilus House has smooth surfaces in every direction, stunning spiral staircases, clever paintings, and the use of colored glass to bring life to the interior as the sunlight beams in. Almost feeling as if you're living inside a snail, the entrance is cut into a wall of stained glass, but not all of the building's surprises are so easy to see. Rather than being constructed in the normal way, it's instead made with ferro-cement, which essentially means the structure has a core of steel-reinforced chicken wire that's been coated with 2-inch thick composite cement. Not only does this mean that it hardly needs any maintenance, but it's such a solid design that the house is classified as being earthquake-resistant. Each room has its own personality and design aesthetic, from the more pared-back bedroom for the parents to the bold and bright children's rooms, which all makes for the ideal family home that's certainly unlike anything else. Number 11. Sky Garage, Singapore. When you live in a highly populated city, space comes at a premium. And while this affects how large a home can be, it also means it's virtually impossible to have a parking space anywhere near where you live. In Singapore, though, there's an answer to this, and one that allows the owners of incredible supercars to be far closer to their prized possessions than you would think is possible. The Hamilton Scott's residential building offers a number of apartments that are as elegant and as lavish as you'd expect for a development targeting the multi-millionaires of the city-state. But with one standout feature: residents drive into the underground garage of the building but park their vehicles on a metal plate before entering their unique code. The plate then moves the car into an elevator shaft and lifts it up to one of 56 apartments that are spread across the 36 floors and places it in the living room. With space for 2 cars in each apartment, it makes the cars part of the interior decoration, which makes sense since most of those owned by residents cost in excess of $500,000. The only downside is that it's purely for aesthetics and nothing to do with practicality, because you're not allowed to ride up the elevator while sitting in your vehicle. Still, this surely has to be one of the coolest features of any apartment block in the world. Number 10. The Pole House, Victoria, Australia. Homes with coastal views are often most sought after thanks to the way that they give the impression that there's far more space around you. But of all those with stunning ocean backdrops in the world, the coolest has to be the Pole House in Victoria, Australia. Located along the Great Ocean Road that hugs the coastline, the structure was originally built by Frank Dixon in the 1970s and immediately became one of the most photographed and well-known homes in the whole country. Perched above a pole that's 130 feet or 40 meters above Fairhaven Beach, it has recently undergone a full refit, so the interior is adorned with modern design features and all the latest technology that you'd expect. Originally, the Pole House was intended to be the sole residence of the owner, but as it's made such a cultural impact, it's now available to rent, providing the perfect place to take a break while journeying around Australia. Spectacular outside and in, there's probably no cooler Instagram picture than one of you drinking a cocktail on the balcony of this house with the roaring ocean in the background. Number 9. Sun Valley Starship, Idaho, United States. Mainly built between 2006 and 2009, but only fully completed in the past few years, the Sun Valley Starship is one of the most unique and unusual houses you'll ever see. The $6 million property is on a huge plot of land in Bellevue, Idaho, and from the outside almost looks like a welcoming, strange-shaped cottage made from concrete, steel, and glass, and reclaimed wood. But with a striking man-made pond and a wonderful rustic outdoor space. Things are no less creative inside, where the space is centered around a huge open kitchen with bar seating and a further circular bar in the upper living area that looks down on the floor below through a skylight-style circular opening. There are 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, heated garages, multiple stairways, and even a concert arena space. A metal elevator cage is used to access each of the 5 levels of the house, including the top floor, where there's an outdoor Olympic-length swimming pool, and virtually all of the materials used in construction were locally sourced and reclaimed. Feeling both traditional and futuristic, the home certainly earns its name of the Sun Valley Sunship, and it's no wonder the real estate market was excited in 2019 when it was last put up for sale. Number 8. Shark Attack Home, Headington, UK. Think about the strangest looking house that's near to where you live, and you'll know just how much the exterior design choices of an owner can affect the local community. In 1986, as a commentary on local planning laws and also to commemorate the 41st anniversary of the dropping of a nuclear bomb on Nagasaki in Japan, a homeowner in Headington, which is near Oxford in England, decided to install an art piece on his roof. Working in collaboration with sculptor John Buckley, a 25-foot-long fiberglass shark was built and installed headfirst into the house, almost looking like it's part of the set of Sharknado. It's officially called Untitled 1986, and it took 3 months to complete, and was originally only meant to be there for a few months. Said to be a representation of the anger and desperation you'd feel if a shark tore a hole in your roof, similar to that felt by victims of a nuclear bomb, it soon became a powerful image for anti-war campaigners around the world. Because of this importance, the shark was allowed to stay in place, and it remains there today after several renovations. And no matter what you think of the message behind it, it's pretty cool to have a shark in your house, and something else you can be sure no one else in the neighborhood has. Number 7. Dolomitenblick, Sesto, Italy. Built in 2012 in Sesto, Italy, on a hillside of the Dolomites mountain range, Dolomitenblick is one of the coolest apartment blocks in the world. Within the building are 6 residential homes, all of which are directed towards the sun and an uninterrupted panoramic view of the mountain range. Fitted with floor-to-ceiling windows, external blinds, and a view-facing terrace with a private garden at the end, everything has been designed to make the best use of the stunning surroundings. It's built from copper and larch wood, not just because it helps fit in with the environment and almost seems like it's been there forever, but also because these materials will slowly change color over time under the influence of the sun, rain, and snow. The materials were locally sourced, and along with the design of the building, which has been partially built within a hill, Dolomitenblick is also extremely energy efficient, only having around half the power requirements of a similarly sized building elsewhere. More and more homes like this are now being built, but because of its sharp lines, overall aesthetic, and its location, Dolomitenblick remains one of the best you'll see anywhere. Number 6. Steel House, Ransom Canyon, Texas, United States. Around 20 minutes outside the town of Lubbock, Texas, eagle-eyed drivers will spot something rather strange on the horizon alongside the river. Beyond a series of regular 2-story houses is the Steel House, an almost UFO-like structure. It was conceived and built by Robert Bruno, a sculptor who handcrafted every element from 1973 until his death in 2008. Stood on 4 legs on a ridge and with astonishing views over Lake Ransom Canyon, the house was made from more than 150 tons of blackened steel, with each part carefully welded by hand. The interior is almost entirely decorated with wood, to the point where it feels like you're inside a treehouse, and most of the windows are made from ornate stained glass, which lights the inside with a wide array of colors. Despite being seriously cool as it is, the house is unfortunately still incomplete, despite the designer dedicating most of his life to it. He was unable to install the planned aquarium and the swimming pool, and there were still various holes between the levels, and perhaps one day a new owner may finally finish it, perhaps with funds raised from conducting tours to those interested in seeing it for themselves. Number 5. Spitbank Fort, Portsmouth, UK. Sometimes the coolest houses are the most unique ones that no matter how much they tried, no one else would ever be able to have anything similar. That's definitely the case with Spitbank Fort in Solent Strait near Portsmouth, England, which is a former naval installation that was first built back in the late 19th century to defend against an expected invasion from France. This attack never came, but the fort and others like it were renewed in the 20th century as defensive outposts during the World Wars, but since then were decommissioned. Spitbank Fort has, however, found a new lease on life in the past few decades when it was purchased and renovated to be used as a private home. The owners, however, decided that they didn't want to keep it purely as a private property, so allowed a number of TV shows to film there in the 2000s. And then in 2012, 12 rooms were converted so the fort could be used as a hotel. This ended in 2020 due to the pandemic, at which point the incredible structure became a private dwelling once more. Because of the unique access challenges, whereby it can only be reached by boat in favorable conditions, it's not expected to reopen for a few years. Number 4. Elefante Art House, Cornville, Arizona, United States. Set within 7 acres of land in Cornville, Arizona, the Elefante Art House was conceived and built by Michael Kahn and Lady Levant over 28 years from 1979. Containing features that you'd expect from most homes such as central heating, electricity, and running water. That's virtually where any similarities end, as the handmade home is intended to be a living art piece. There are 5 distinct areas, each of which are connected by a common theme, which are the meditation area, the art gallery, the bath, the garden sculptures, and the wetland ponds. Most of the materials used to build and decorate the home were sourced locally from the desert, and when combined with stone, glass mosaics, tiles, wood, metal, and plaster, creating one of the coolest home interiors ever made. The couple didn't have an overall plan for the building when they started, and instead followed an organic building process where they made the necessary decisions only at the last moment during construction. Since the creation of the first and main house, a number of other artists have also moved to the site and built structures of their own. And now Elefante is the name given to the entire sculptural village, which, because of the unusual community that's developed there, attracts visitors from all over the country. Number 3. Dar al-Hajar, Yemen. The most extravagant and ornate homes around the world are usually palaces. But while you may at first think of somewhere like Buckingham Palace, it's not necessarily the coolest ever built. That honor surely goes to the Dar al-Hajar, which is a Middle Eastern-style palace that was built on top of a naturally formed rock spire in Yemen in the 1930s. The spire already had a structure there since the 1700s, but an Islamic spiritual leader called Yahya Muhammad felt it would be the ideal place for a new house. It was originally intended to be a summer home, with stunning views over the surroundings, and contains a number of meeting rooms to entertain guests, and spaces specifically designed to be used to cool water in earthen jars. The Imam Yahya used it for several years, but was assassinated in 1948, and the palace, which was once one of the most exclusive homes in the country, is now a museum where guests can see some of the greatest examples of traditional Yemeni architecture. Both because of the way it's designed and the spire it's built on, it looks like a real-life version of a legendary palace from a fantasy novel. Number 2. Capitol Hill Residence, Barvika, Russia. Zaha Hadid was an internationally renowned architect responsible for structures like the Aquatic Center at the London Olympics and the Broad Art Museum in East Lansing, Michigan. But despite her design pedigree, during her career she was only responsible for one house, which is nestled within the trees of the Barvika Forest near Moscow in Russia. Known as the Capitol Hill Residence, it was made for Russian billionaire businessman and philanthropist Vladislav Doronin, and is one of the most futuristic and coolest houses found anywhere on Earth. Using Hadid's signature style of straight edges and sunken reliefs, the standout feature of this home is the master bedroom, which is set on top of a 72-foot-tall concrete stalk that gives it complete seclusion, and glorious views into the forest canopy through glazed windows and 2 balconies. Elsewhere in the house there are another 3 floors, the lowest of which is where there's leisure facilities. Then on the ground floor there's a lounge, living room, kitchen, entertaining spaces, and a swimming pool. And on the first floor, the guest and children's bedrooms and a library. Described by Hadid as a dream project that allowed her to fully follow her creative vision, the angled glass facades and unusually shaped concrete panels trick the eye into seeing a much stranger shape than it actually is. Generally regarded in the architectural community as an absolute masterpiece, most of us could only dream of living in a house as cool as this. Number 1. Flintstone House, Hillsborough, California. Residents of the town of Hillsborough, California are used to seeing houses of various different shapes and sizes, but of all those there, the one that stands out the most has to be the one that overlooks the Doran Memorial Bridge and San Mateo Creek, and is widely known as the Flintstone House. Designed by architect William Nicholson and built in 1976, the original plan wasn't for it to look like the home owned by the famous Hanna-Barbera characters, and was instead an experiment in new building techniques. The domes and walls were made from steel rebar and wire mesh frames that were wrapped around aeronautical balloons and then completely covered in sprayed concrete to give it its rigidity. Inside the house, there's around 2,700 square feet of living space, which includes 3 bedrooms. And there's also a spiral staircase that was inspired by an ice cream cone, along with a 2-car garage. All of the interior surfaces are rounded, and the master bedroom has a floor made of stones rather than tiles. But this is only the beginning of why it would soon become known as the most famous house of bedrock. At first, the exterior was painted in an off-white color, but new owners decided instead to paint it orange with a purple domed roof in the early 2000s, and further added murals and statues of the characters from the show, along with sculptures of dinosaurs, a woolly mammoth, and a giraffe. Must be cool to live in, but you have to feel for the neighbors who have seen the property develop in this way over the past 2 decades. There was an attempt to encourage an inspection from the Architectural Review Board in 2019, but the property was found to be completely within the guidelines and can remain exactly how it is. Watch our binge-watching playlist if you'd like to watch all of our most popular top 15 videos. Grab a drink, grab a snack, and get ready to binge.